Welcome, unlucky traveler, to another tale from the warp. We are grateful for you to heed our call and join us in the joyous bliss of war and incur. Before we enter the world of Warhammer 40k, defile the bell of notification and like the carnage that you are soon to behold, so we may spread our corruption across the universe. Now open yourself up to the warp and let the chaos wash over you.
The warp screamed, not a sound in any mortal sense, but a vast psychic roar that throbbed through the bones of the ship, through the iron of its hull, through the minds of the damned who called it home. The Torment's fang drifted through unreality, its engines shrouded in demonic fire, its wake a storm of whispering souls. Lord Varath Kane stood at the heart of the bridge, gazing into the madness beyond the viewport. The ship's crystal lenses did not show stars, they showed shapes. Things that moved in the formless dark. Creatures born of the same hate that burned in his own heart. The warp licked at the hull like a beast tasting its cage. He had been many things once, a warrior of the lunar wolves, a hero of the Great Crusade, a believer in the dream of mankind's dominion over the stars. Now, 10,000 years later, he was none of those things. Only a weapon remained, a thing forged in the crucible of betrayal, tempered in the fires of damnation, a warrior of the Black Legion, a slave and a general both, bound to the long war, the eternal struggle to overthrow the corpse god who sat in silence upon his golden throne. Lord Kane. The voice came from the sorcerer beside him, Amon Zul of the Cyclopean Eye. His armor was the color of void fire, and the horns upon his helm curved like serpents. He spoke with dark malice in his voice, the augur's whisper of resistance ahead. A xenos fleet. Their minds are cold, small, ordered. Kane turned slightly, the servos in his armor groaning. The Tau. Yes, my lord. The name was a snarl in Kane's vox. Blue-skinned parasites. They call their empire the greater good. He spat the last words like acid. Another lie to chain the weak. Another empire built upon submission. The Warmaster decreed their destruction, said Amon Zul softly, a spark to light chaos in the eastern void. Kane's gauntleted hand flexed upon the railing of the dais, then let the spark become a star. He strode to the hololithic display. A world floated within. Blue oceans, silver clouds, shining cities. Dal'yth Prime, the jewel of the Tau Empire. A world of logic and light. A world that would burn. Summon my war council, Kane said. The long war comes to Dal'yth. And deep within the Torment's fang, the demons stirred, eager to taste alien souls. The Torment's fang bled into real space above Dal'yth's orbit. The transition from warp was not gentle. The ship's arrival split the fabric of reality like a knife tearing flesh. A bloom of light, crimson and sickly, washed across the system. Tau Augur satellites detected it, of course, but their logic engines could not classify it. Their data streams returned paradox, recursive loops, sensory failure. To the Tau, the Torment's fang was not a ship. It was an aberration. Range, Kane demanded. 5 million kilometers, replied his helmsman, a twisted remnant of a once proud tech marine. His voice was metallic, emotionless. Xenos fleet forming intercept pattern. Signal emissions are calm. Kane's lip curled. Calm. They wish to speak. My lord. Amon Zul laughed, a sound like glass shattering. They believe we are imperial envoys. Perhaps. Their kind loves parley, words, treaties, rationality, such fragile illusions. Then we will give them an answer, said Kane. He gestured, and the Vox servitor shuddered to life, its throat sockets opening in a wet hiss. Transmit on all bands. Static filled the bridge. Then Kane's voice thundered through the void. This is Lord Varath Kane of the Black Legion. You speak of reason. You speak of peace. There is no peace in the galaxy. Xenos. There is only war. And then, softly, almost a whisper, for the Warmaster, the Torment's fangs gun decks roared. Macro cannons belched streams of molten metal. Lances of warp energy sliced through the darkness. In an instant, the void was ablaze. Tau cruisers reacted with inhuman precision. Their rail batteries opened fire. Streaks of sapphire light crossing the stars. Their drones formed screens, intercepting shellfire with sacrificial precision. But the Black Legion did not fight by rules of logic. Their ships moved like beasts, unpredictable, savage. Boarding torpedoes streaked toward the Tau flagship. Orn violus grace. Each torpedo bore a warband, screaming through the void toward slaughter. Varath Kane rode in the first. Inside the torpedo's iron coffin, the roar of the engines was a hymn of hate. His armor was sealed, his weapons humming with demon fire. The chainfist on his arm growled like a caged predator. His warriors surrounded him, chosen of the Warmaster, their armor black as the abyss, their eyes burning with malice. When we breach, he said, there will be no mercy. No survivors. Let them see the face of terror. The impact came like the fist of a god. The torpedo struck the Grace's hull, melted through armor with a fusion charge, and exploded inward. They emerged into corridors of light and glass, sleek, sterile, alien. It was an abattoir within seconds. Bolters thundered, tearing through fire warriors like paper. Drones spun and fell, their logic cores fried by warp interference. Varath's chainfist caught a Tau officer mid-flight and crushed him into blue vapor. He moved like a storm, each blow of Solvane cutting through armor and flesh alike. The demon weapon howled in ecstasy, feeding on souls, its hunger a chorus in his mind. The ship trembled. Explosions rocked the decks. Through shattered bulkheads, Kane saw the void, and beyond it, Dal'yth Prime, untouched, innocent. For now, bridge ahead, shouted one of his warriors. They burst through the final hatch. Inside, the Tau captain, tall, silver-armored, with cold amber eyes, stood before a holographic star map. He did not flee. He did not plead. He raised his pulse carbine and fired. The bolt ricocheted harmlessly off Kane's chest plate. The Chaos Lord reached him in 3 strides. You fought well, he said. Then he tore him apart. The Grace's bridge was his. He turned to the viewing window and raised his axe. Signal the fleet, he commanded. The void is ours. Prepare the descent. Outside, Dal'yth's sun began to dim, its light shrouded by the spreading warp storm. The eye had opened. The Tau call themselves enlightened. I call them arrogant children playing with toys they do not understand. Their ships drifted before me in orderly formations, white and blue shells of clean design, lined with railgun spines and sensor vanes. They looked like predators, but I saw only insects. Perfect geometry, sterile precision, the delusion of control. The warp does not abide control. We came upon him as thunder, a storm from the screaming dark. The torment's fang burned behind me, its demon heart pulsing to the rhythm of my rage. I could feel the thing inside its reactor exulting in the slaughter, its whispers mingling with my thoughts until I almost forgot where I ended and the ship began. The void was alive with fire. Macro cannon rounds streaked past my viewport, molten trails carving across the black. The Tau returned fire with their cursed rail batteries, thin lances of blue light that could pierce through kilometers of iron. One of our escort frigates, the Oblivion's Maw, took a direct hit. I watched her break apart, her decks venting bodies and demon smoke into the stars. She died screaming prayers to the Warmaster. There are no better deaths. Target their command vessel, I ordered. Orn violus grace. Cut out the heart, and the body dies. My helmsman obeyed without question. There is no hesitation among the damned, not because of loyalty, but because fear and devotion are the same thing here. I strode through the command deck, my armor clanging with every step. My presence silenced the Vox traffic, and even the demon chains adorning the walls seemed to still their whispering. Load boarding torpedoes, I said. Well, bleed him from within. Amen. Zul, ever at my shoulder, bowed his horned head. The warp favors boldness, my lord, and the xenos' minds burn bright in the immaterium. So pure, so unaware. He smiled, a terrible, crooked thing. I could twist them into knots before they even scream. Save your tricks for the surface, I told him. This is a warrior's work. The torpedo bay was a cathedral of steel and fire. Red lights pulsed like a heartbeat. My warband waited within their launch pods, black and gold giants. Blades humming with power, their armor inscribed with the runes of the eye. They looked to me as I passed. Some with worship, others with the hungry stares of predators waiting to be unleashed. Brothers, I said, my voice magnified through the Vox. Deep as thunder. We are the sons of Horus no longer. We are his vengeance. The false emperor cast us out, but his imperium rots while we endure. The xenos think themselves new gods. Let us teach them what a god truly is. I raised Solvane, my axe, the demon within shrieking in recognition. For the Warmaster, I roared. The bay answered with 1,000 howls. Then the launch sirens screamed. We were hurled into the void. Inside the torpedo, I felt only the vibration of the engines and the drumbeat of my own twin hearts. My armor's internal systems whispered kill runes. Through the narrow viewport I saw the Tau fleet looming larger, elegant constructs of alien logic, unfit for the madness that awaited them. The impact came like the fist of a god. Metal screamed. The torpedo punched through the hull of the Grace, breaching her belly with a wave of molten air. The explosive bolts blew, and we stormed into the corridors like demons from the warp. Their lights were clean, white, their walls unscarred by battle. I fixed that mistake quickly. The first fire warrior rounded the corner, his pulse rifle spitting blue light. The bolt struck my chest plate and evaporated against the ceramite. I answered with a storm bolter burst that tore him apart. I remember the color of his blood. Indigo. Too clean. It steamed on the deck as it cooled. The corridors filled with the sound of our advance, bolters roaring, blades grinding through flesh, the laughter of the possessed echoing from every shadow. They tried to organize. They even fought well. In their way, disciplined, calm, but their courage was cold. It lacked fury. It lacked hate. And hate is the only weapon that never runs dry. We reached their command deck after 6 minutes of slaughter. 6 minutes to carve through 200 xenos. Their corpses floated in the corridor, blood globules glinting like jewels in the emergency lights. The bridge doors sealed ahead. I motioned for my melter gunner. The weapon hissed, and the door melted into slag. Inside, the Tau commander stood waiting. Tall, lithe, his armor etched with rank markings. Behind him, a dozen more, drones circling protectively, their lenses whirring. He raised a hand, as if to speak. Identify yourself, he said in clipped Gothic. We are not your enemy. We can. Wrong, I said, and fired. The bolt took him in the chest. His body disintegrated. His subordinates opened fire in perfect unity. But I was already among them. My chain fist roared, cleaving two in half. Solvane struck the next, splitting him from shoulder to hip. The demon within the axe exulted, drinking deep of alien essence. When it was over, I stood alone amid the carnage. The bridge was a ruin of shattered glass and drifting bodies. The ship's alarms blared in alien tones. I gazed out through the cracked viewport at Dal'yth below, so blue, So tranquil. That calm mocked me. I opened the Vox channel to my fleet. Begin planetary bombardment. I said. Let the skies burn. The first salvo came from the Torment's fang. Warp-charged lances cut through the atmosphere, painting the world's upper layers in fire. From the bridge of the dying grace, I watched the planet's clouds ignite. I remember thinking it was beautiful. Amon Zul's voice crackled through the comm. My lord, the planet stirs. Their defenses awaken. Good, I said. Let them. I turned away from the viewport and strode back toward the corridors, stepping over bodies that had once believed they could reason with monsters. The demon in Solvane whispered through my gauntlet. More souls below. Millions. Hungry. Afraid. I know. I whispered back. I can almost taste them. We returned to our torpedoes as the Grace began to die. Her reactor flared, plasma bleeding into the void. Behind us, she bloomed like a dying star, one more trophy for the gods. I felt the faint pull of gravity as our dropships broke formation, diving toward Dal'yth's atmosphere. Below, continents shimmered in blue and silver light. Cities stretched like veins across the world's surface. A civilization of order and control. We would unmake it. Amon Zul appeared beside me, his form flickering with warp energy. The storm is ready, he said. I can unseal the veil above their world. The demons wait at the threshold. Not yet, I told him. Let the mortals feel fear first. Then we'll give them nightmares to match. He inclined his head. As you will, my lord. The dropship shook violently as we hit the upper atmosphere. Fire streaked across the viewport. I braced myself, laughing into the turbulence. Around me, my warriors chanted the battle hymns of old, their voices a mix of memory and madness. We were falling stars, each of us a herald of death. As we broke through the clouds, I saw the world below, towers of white stone, wide plazas filled with civilian craft, skies alive with defensive drones. Alarm sirens began to wail across the tower network. They had no idea what they faced. They would learn. The world of Dal'yth grew vast beneath our descent, a sphere of blue and white wreathed in flame. The atmosphere burned against the hull of our dropship as we knifed through it, a roaring pyre surrounding us. The Vox was a storm of voices, gunship squadrons calling out formations, warbands chanting war prayers, demons howling inside the comm static. The Tau had already raised the defense grid. Ion cannons spat upward in shimmering arcs, plasma trails cutting through the clouds. I felt every impact as the dropships around us were torn apart. Some burst into fireballs that streaked across the sky like falling suns. Others were ripped open mid-descent, their occupants tumbling into the abyss below, still screaming oaths to the Warmaster. We were lucky, or favored. The gods sometimes blur the line. 30 seconds to groundfall, shouted the pilot. Brace for slaughter, I replied. The dropship struck ground like a meteor. The impact threw me forward, harnesses snapping free. I rose as the ramp blew open, smoke and fire billowing in. Dal'yth's air was thick with ozone and the acrid scent of plasma. We had landed in the outskirts of a Tau military complex, white-walled fortifications set among rolling plains of cobalt grass. In the distance, sleek drones whirled above bunkers, marking targets for orbital defense. Bolter fire thundered the moment we emerged. The first volley hit Brother Kargan square in the chest, punching through his armor and dropping him to his knees. He laughed as he died, blood hissing into steam upon his pauldrons. I stepped over his corpse and fired my combi bolter into the firing line. Each bolt exploded in bursts of red mist and shattered armor. Fire warriors fell like wheat before the scythe. They fought in formations, disciplined and calm. Their pulse rifles burned bright, plasma trails stitching through the air. Even under fire, their movements were precise, almost beautiful. In their way. But beauty is weakness. Forward! I roared. Break their line. My warband surged beside me. Black and gold giants thundering across the plain. The earth shook beneath our charge. Heavy bolters roared. Chinaxes screamed. A cadre of crisis battlesuits leapt into the air ahead. Their jetpacks flaring bright. They opened fire mid-flight. Plasma and missile salvos cutting through our ranks. One struck Ayman Zul, his body vanishing in a blossom of light, but when the smoke cleared, I saw his form reconstituting. Warp energy boiling where flesh should have been. He laughed, a sound that made mortals falter. The battlesuits landed in a defensive line. Advanced tech. Yes, but their precision faltered when blood touched the soil. The warp hates perfection. I charged. A burst of plasma tore past me, scarring my shoulder plate. I ignored it. My chainfist spun to life. A scream of metal and demonic hunger. The nearest suit pivoted to aim, too slow. I slammed into it. The chainfist punching through its chest plate and ripping out the pilot in a spray of blue blood. Another battlesuit opened fire point blank. My armor's warning runes flared, heat biting into my side. I swung Solvane in reply. The axe cleaved through its arm, bit deep into the core, and the demon within screamed in ecstasy as it drank down alien life. The surviving Tau fell back, drones swarming to cover them. They fought with machine precision, retreating in perfect synchrony. Admirable, but futile. They did not understand what we were. We were not soldiers. We were damnation made flesh. Lord Varath. Came a vox burst from the flank. Their second line is forming behind the ridge. Armor support inbound. I looked up, and saw the horizon bloom with light. Hammerhead tanks rolled into view. Grav engines humming. Railguns charging with a sound like cracking thunder. Take cover. I barked. Even as the first rail slug screamed past, vaporizing 3 of my warriors in a single shot. The impact dug a trench through the battlefield. Molten earth spraying like blood. They were efficient killers. The Tau. But efficiency is a poor substitute for fury. I gestured to Ayman Zul, who floated above the battlefield, his form flickering with warp fire. Call the storm, I ordered. His laughter was lost in the wind as he raised his staff. The air split with a shriek that tore through reality itself. Lightning of raw chaos bled from the clouds, warping the sky into a roiling vortex of madness. The first demons came screaming through, fleshless hounds, shrieking wraiths, and creatures of shadow that slithered along the edges of sight. The Tau broke formation at the sight of them, their discipline finally shattering. Good. The battlefield dissolved into chaos. Pulsefire mingled with demonic shrieks. The air thick with ozone and blood. A hammerhead exploded as a warp hound leapt onto it, melting through its hull. Through it all. I strode forward, through the fire, through the screams. Every step was agony and ecstasy both. This was what we were made for. We reached the walls of the compound. Pulse turrets rotated to meet us, their targeting arrays whirring frantically as they tracked a dozen threats at once. I vaulted the outer barricade, landing in the midst of a fire warrior squad. One raised his rifle. I took his arm off at the elbow. Another tried to flee. Solvane took him in the back, the demon within shrieking with pleasure. The gates loomed ahead, massive slabs of armored alloy humming with shield generators. A challenge. Bring the melter, I roared. Brother Drax ran forward with the weapon. A beam of white-hot energy cut into the gate, melting metal into slag. The gate sagged, then fell inward. I led the charge through. Inside, the compound was a maze of alien architecture, smooth walls, glowing runes, sterile corridors. It offended every instinct I had. No dirt, no scars, no history. We would fix that. A cadre of battlesuits awaited us inside. Heavier than before. Broadside variants. Twin railguns mounted on their shoulders. They opened fire the moment we breached the gate. The first shot slammed into the wall beside me, spraying molten shards. The second hit Drax squarely, vaporizing him instantly. I dove for cover, armor searing. Amon Zul materialized beside me, his eyes burning like coals. They bring their finest, he hissed. Then so do we, I said. Open the gate fully. He extended his staff again. The air shimmered. The veil between realities tore apart like silk. From the rift crawled horrors, winged demons with molten eyes, crawling nightmares that oozed blood and smoke. They poured forth in a flood, shrieking praise to powers unseen. The broadside suits turned their guns toward them, firing desperately. It didn't matter. The demons swarmed over them, tearing armor apart with claws that shouldn't exist. I rose from cover, laughter boiling in my chest. The compound was ours. But victory is a lie in the long war. Over the Vox, a warning screamed. Lord Varath, orbital sensors detect reinforcements. Multiple Tau strike carriers inbound from the upper atmosphere. I looked skyward, through the clouds of smoke and warp fire. I saw the faint glimmer of re-entry trails. So, they would not break easily. Good. Form ranks. I roared to my warband. Let them come. Let the blueskins throw their armies into our teeth. Amon Zul grinned, fangs glinting in the firelight. You court annihilation, my lord. Always, I said. It's the only thing worth courting. The sky split open again with light, Tau reinforcements descending like meteors. Drop pods screaming down in precise formation. Around me, my brothers readied their weapons, and demons danced upon the air. The next wave was coming, and I would meet it head on. The reinforcements came like a storm, through the smoke and fire. I saw the first drop pods pierce the clouds, sleek silver shells. Markings of the Tau Empire glinting in the inferno around us. They struck the plains like hunting knives, opening to release squads of fire warriors and Pathfinder drones. Behind them, grav tanks hummed across the horizon, railguns flashing with deadly precision. I did not flinch. I do not flinch. Form defensive wedges around the breached compound. I barked, and my warband obeyed. Each step, each formation, was drilled in chaos-born instinct. Chosen formed the outer line, bolters roaring in unison, while the possessed surged forward in pockets, guided by the warp, unpredictable as the storm itself. I assessed the battlefield. The Tau were trying to impose order, tight formations, overlapping fields of fire, drones marking targets. I had fought disciplined armies before. Efficiency is admirable, predictable. I would break it. I moved to the left flank, gesturing for a small detachment of Chosen to follow. Sweep toward the grav tanks. I commanded. They are the spine of their counterattack. Crush it, and the rest will falter. The squad obeyed without hesitation. I could hear the shriek of demons echoing through the static as Amon Zul began his work. He raised his staff, and the air itself bent. Lightning of raw chaos energy ripping through the lines of approaching fire warriors. The wave was surgical. It did not touch my own forces. That is the power of the warp, disciplined by those who understand it. 2 riptide suits rose from the horizon, jetpacks flaring, railguns trained on us. I didn't hesitate. Aim for the engines, I bellowed. A squad of Chosen opened fire with heavy bolters and melter guns. The lead riptide staggered as a concentrated melter stream sliced through its stabilizers. The demon in Solvane howled, sensing a kindred spirit within the riptide's machine heart. I lunged, my axe spinning, slicing its cockpit open in one motion. The pilot's screams were brief, the rest of the suit collapsing in a heap of sparking metal. The Tau were not stupid. They adapted quickly. Their second wave of drones deployed to form an anti-demon perimeter, harassing the creatures that spilled from the warp. Hounds, wraiths, and shadow forms tore through the ground troops, forcing the Tau to split their fire. Hold the center, I ordered. Push their fire warriors into the demons. It was brutal, precise chaos. The Chosen funneled the fire warriors toward Amon Zul's conjured demons. Wraiths tore through armor like paper. Hounds leaped onto tanks, ripping through hull and pilot alike. The battlefield became a swirling vortex of red and blue, blood, fire, and warp energy colliding in every direction. I noted the tactical pattern. The Tau attempted pincer maneuvers, dropping pod squads to flank us while their grav tanks pushed forward. Their railgun fire was accurate, disciplined, lethal, but it was also reactive. They were forced to respond to the unpredictable incursions of warp energy. They had no anticipation for chaos-born strategy. I seized the initiative. I ordered a counter-flank through the eastern ridge. A squad of Chosen and Possessed moved under my command. We struck the exposed flank of the grav tanks, charging down the slope like a black tide. I watched as 2 tanks were overturned, demons clinging to the hulls, claws and talons shredding metal. Their crews screamed in terror. Forward! Keep them in the funnel! I shouted, directing the battle with feral precision. The terrain worked in our favor. The ridges and broken city walls forced the Tau into narrow kill zones. I could read their movements as easily as a map, every pod, every jetpack leap, every railgun shot. I exploited each pattern, sending demons and Chosen into precise choke points. The air was filled with death. One riptide unleashed a salvo that tore through half a squad of Chosen. I dived under its line of fire, spinning soul vein, and struck the machine's leg, severing the support structure. The pilot's screams echoed, mingling with the demon's howl in my axe. The first orbital reinforcements began to descend, strike carriers blazing re-entry trails, dropping additional firepower onto the battlefield. I grinned. Perfect. More prey. Amon Zul and I coordinated our psychic assault. He focused on the densest pockets of fire warriors while I led my warriors against the tanks. I could see the Tau commanders screaming into Vox, trying to re-coordinate. The warp's presence turned their signals into static and interference. Confusion blossomed in their ranks. I pushed forward, leading a direct assault against the largest hammerhead tank on the field. It fired, and the shot vaporized 2 of my brothers. I laughed, diving beneath the blast, and rammed Soulvein into the tank's hull. The demon within sang as the armor cracked, feeding on the pilot's fear. The Tau faltered. Even the disciplined fire warriors could not withstand a warband that moved as an extension of a living weapon, guided by a mind that saw all outcomes at once. The compound was ours, but the battle was far from over. New drop pods fell behind us. Riptides and battlesuits regrouped, and orbital bombardment streaked across the plains in thin, deadly arcs. Still, we held. We had control of the terrain, the funnel points, and the warp-spawned creatures we had unleashed. Every time the Tau thought they had a plan, it failed. Every time they tried to regain composure, the long war reminded them why chaos is not a force to be reasoned with. I took a breath, though armor and helmet make breath meaningless, and surveyed the battlefield. Bodies of xenos and humans alike littered the ground. The air shimmered with warp energy. The sky was an aurora of fire and smoke. And in the distance, I could see the next wave forming, bigger, stronger, more organized. I smiled. They would learn fear soon. Very soon. The Tau were desperate now. Their counterattack hit like a wave of cold steel. Grav tanks roared across the plains, railguns firing in disciplined tandem. Crisis suits leapt from pods in perfect arcs. jetpacks flaring, while broadside teams rained missiles down on our positions. The first volleys struck hard. My brothers fell in droves. Bolters and melters roared in reply. I could feel the screams of the fallen. The warp tide surging beneath my feet, urging me forward. I grinned beneath my helm. Let them come. Let them throw everything they had into the teeth of the long war. I moved through the chaos like a predator among prey. My chain fist cleaved through a crisis suit that had aimed to crush one of my brothers. The demon inside wailing in recognition. Another jumped at me. Jetpacks screaming. I caught him midair with Soulvein, spinning the axe in a wide arc, slicing the pilot clean in two. The battlefield was madness. The sky burned with missiles and plasma. The earth shook with explosions. And the air was thick with warp smoke and ozone. Demons surged from the rift Amon Zul had opened, scattering the disciplined fire warriors. The creatures moved unpredictably, striking from every angle, disappearing into the ground only to reappear behind enemy lines. I could read the Tau's intentions as clearly as their movements. They were precise, efficient, reactive. I was chaotic, fluid, inevitable. The central compound trembled under orbital bombardment. Strike carriers streaked across the sky, dropping torpedoes that buried themselves in the outer walls. I barked orders. Pull back and consolidate. Use the compound as a choke point. Funnel them into death. The chosen obeyed without hesitation. Possessed surged into the corridors. Demons tearing through metal and flesh alike. I could feel every strike, every shudder of impact, every scream as if it were mine. A broadside team fired from the upper level of the compound. I dodged between the columns of rubble, then hurled a melter charge that ignited one of the suits. The explosion sent shrapnel in all directions. 2 more suits fell to the ground, their pilots dead before the smoke cleared. Amon Zul hovered above the fray, chanting in the dark tongue. The air shimmered, bending the laws of reality. Warp lightning struck a squad of fire warriors, tearing them apart. I could smell their fear before their bodies hit the ground. But the Tau were not yet broken. They brought their last reserves, a squadron of riptides, their grav engines forming a wall of kinetic fire. They moved like a living shield, plasma cannons blazing. Every shot meant to punch through our ranks. 2 chosen fell instantly, vaporized by concentrated blasts. I felt rage boil in me, sharp and hot. Split their line. Flank the left. I shouted. My warband obeyed, carving through debris and fire. Demons poured into the gap, feeding on fear, driving the surviving fire warriors back. I leapt atop a shattered grav tank, raising Soulvein high. My voice carried over the battlefield. For the Warmaster. For the long war. Crush them all. The warband roared. The demons howled. The ground shook beneath our fury. The riptides faltered. I saw one stagger as a demon claw struck through its chest. Another collapsed under a flurry of bolter fire. The psychic tide of Amon Zul had begun to turn the battlefield. I could see the Tau commanders panicking now, their control fracturing, signals jammed by warp interference, pods misdropping, their formations breaking apart. Good. I surged forward with my remaining warband, carving a path through the heart of their counterattack. The remaining fire warriors scattered or fell to the demons, their precision useless against chaos-born unpredictability. By the time the last pod struck the ground, the compound was ours. The demons held the inner courtyard. The chosen cleared corridors, and the few remaining Tau were trapped in defensive bunkers. Too few and too late. I paused atop the central gate. The air was thick with smoke, blood, and the smell of melting metal. Bodies of friend and foe alike littered the battlefield. Flames licked the horizon. Orbital bombardment scorched the plains, tearing holes in the landscape. I felt the pulse of the warp beneath my feet, alive. hungry, singing in recognition of the slaughter. The Tau were broken, their lines shattered. Their orbital reinforcements had been diverted by our warp interference. Dal'yth's defenses, formidable though they were, lay in ruins before us. I let the victory wash over me, but I did not celebrate. Not yet. The long war does not pause. From the distance, Amon Zul's voice echoed through the Vox. My lord, we hold the field, but their orbital assets are still active. They will regroup. They always do. I turned to him, the light of burning buildings reflecting in my visor. Let them come, I said, my voice calm, deadly. We will teach them fear. And when they think it is over, we will show them the void. I raised Solvane toward the smoke-choked sky. The demon within howled in agreement, feeding on anticipation. The planet was ours, for now. But Dal'yth would remember this day. Its cities would burn, its armies would fall, and its people would whisper in terror of the black tide that had descended from the stars. I allowed myself a small smile beneath my helm. The long war continues, and we are its storm. The compound was quiet now. Almost. The screams had faded, replaced by the crackle of fires and the low hum of demons prowling the ruins. Dal'yth's sky still burned from orbital strikes, but the immediate threat had been scattered. The battlefield beneath the walls of the main city stretched like a canvas of death, blue grass scorched black. Smoke curling from smoldering structures. The bodies of Tau and Black Legion alike littering every avenue. I paused at the main gate, surveying the carnage. My armor bore the marks of plasma and railgun fire. Scorched but unbroken. My warband regrouped. Bolters at the ready. Demons circling at the edge of reality like hunting hounds. And then I saw him. A figure standing atop the central plaza of the city. Slender. Graceful. Almost radiant. The ethereal. Cloaked in silver and white. Its face serene beneath the glowing mask. The aura of command radiating outward. Even now. Surrounded by the stench of burning flesh and warp fire. It did not seem afraid. Curious. I felt the familiar pull of the warp, a subtle tug at the edges of thought. A whisper of fear that I had long since cultivated in others. Yet it was different with this creature. The ethereal did not speak with threat. Its presence was a challenge. A test. I moved forward. Bolter raised. Solvane humming at my side. Show yourself, I demanded. My voice amplified across the courtyard. Your soldiers are dead. Your world burns. Step down, Xeno, or die like the rest. The ethereal raised one hand. Calm and deliberate. Its voice carried, not through the Vox, but in thought, in clarity. Why do you fight us so? It asked. Its tone was soft, almost curious. You have conquered many worlds. Yet still you come. What do you seek in death and fire? I laughed. I seek only the truth of power. We are chaos incarnate. You cling to order, logic, belief in some fragile greater good. I have no need for illusions. I need only victory. It tilted its head. Then you do not understand what you destroy. You think this is strength. But it is weakness masked as violence. Your path is endless, yet hollow. I narrowed my eyes beneath my helm. And yet I am here. I am the storm that devours your perfection. A small contingent of remaining fire warriors moved behind the ethereal. Pulse rifles raised. I read their formation. Flanking attempts. A shield for the leader. Predictable. Bring them to me, I said to my warband. The chosen surged forward. Bolters and chain axes tearing into the line. I leapt across the plaza in a single bound. Solvane cleaving one fire warrior in half mid-jump. The ethereal did not flinch. Instead, it gestured, and a sudden wave of light rippled outward. Not harmful, but persuasive. My chestplate's runes flared in warning. The psychic manipulation was subtle. almost elegant, like the calm before a storm. I snarled. Trickery will not save you. The remaining fire warriors were torn down by demons. Hounds and wraiths converged from the shadows, dragging one into nothingness, claws and teeth consuming armor and bone alike. The ethereal's focus did not waver. Even when your enemies fall, your soul remains hollow. You are alone in your conquest, and yet you do not see it. I swung Soulvein at it, aiming to end the discussion with steel. It raised its hand, and the blade halted mid-air, as though caught in invisible strands. I felt a tug at my mind, not fear, but awareness, a test of resolve. You would hold back a weapon against the inevitable. I said, "Do you test me?" "Yes," it said. "I test the truth of your belief. What is chaos to you? What is victory if it comes at nothing?" I tightened my gauntlet around the axe. Chaos is everything, and everything dies under my hand. I threw myself forward, Soulvein vibrating with fury. The ethereal moved with unnatural grace, evading each strike, yet with each parry, each dodge. I felt its influence on the battlefield, subtle, guiding the surviving Tau into positions that forced me to adapt. Clever. Too clever. I realized something. This was not just a duel of steel. It was a duel of wills, of influence. The ethereal's light was not mere illumination. It radiated control over belief, over cohesion, over loyalty. Every fire warrior that remained fought with a quiet strength I had not encountered. Their courage did not falter under warp chaos or demonic assault. I growled. "Fine. Then you will see chaos in its truest form." I called to Amon Zul. The sorcerer appeared at my side, wings of warp energy snapping out like blades of darkness. They would not yield. He hissed. "Then let the storm consume all." I spread my arms. The chosen followed my lead. Demons surged like a tide, crashing against the plaza where the ethereal stood. I roared. "Feel the long war, Xeno." The ethereal's eyes glowed, but it did not flinch. Instead, it raised both hands, guiding the surviving fire warriors to form a tight circle. A wave of psychic light erupted, striking the demons. Many were hurled back, others disintegrated instantly. I cursed. This would not end easily. The battle was no longer just for survival. It was for dominance. For the first time since Dal'yth fell under our gaze, I felt a twinge of something rare, a respect for an opponent who could match instinct with belief. Discipline with elegance. But respect would not save you. Little Xeno, I thought. Chaos does not bow. Chaos does not yield. And I, Varath Kane, am its living storm. I tightened my grip on Soulvein. And I struck again. The plaza shook beneath me. The demons surged forward, the chosen pressing the attack. Yet the ethereal stood at the center, calm as a still pond in a storm of death. Its psychic aura radiated outward, bending reality in ways subtle yet insidious. Every fire warrior remaining fought with a cohesion I could not crush by mere violence. I realized then, this was a duel not just of weapons, but of influence, of will. I advanced. Soulvein hummed in anticipation. The ethereal raised a hand, and a pulse of psychic light swept across the plaza, slamming into demons and warband alike. Some were hurled backward, screaming in agony. Others disintegrated before they touched the ground. I roared, planting my feet, feeling the warp pulse beneath me. I am chaos incarnate. Your illusions cannot stop me. The ethereal tilted its head. Its voice was serene, carrying without sound, straight into my skull. "You are strong," it said, "yet alone. Your power is absolute, but your understanding is blind. Do you truly grasp what you fight for?" I laughed. "I fight for all that is eternal. I fight for the long war. I fight for the Warmaster. And I fight to burn your world to ash." It raised both hands. The remaining fire warriors flanked it, forming a shield of discipline and belief. The psychic push was tremendous. I felt it tugging at my mind, tempting me with doubt. Good. Let them try. I called to Zul. The sorcerer appeared at my side, wings of shadow snapping out. Your presence here is delicate, he hissed. The xeno bends perception. Let me tear them from reality. Wait, I said. The goal is to break them, not simply destroy. Let them see hopelessness before annihilation. Let them feel chaos in their bones. He nodded. Warp energy crackled along his staff. I watched the demons surge again, striking the fire warriors from behind. The ethereal's shield began to falter. One by one, its warriors fell, torn apart by our combined assault. The psychic pulse hit me again, but I met it with my own mind, strengthened by centuries of devotion to chaos. Pain became fuel. Resistance became hunger. I leapt across the plaza. Each step was measured, calculated in instinct. The chosen followed, melting the fire warrior's perimeter. The ethereal raised its hands, trying to channel the remaining energy into a barrier. I struck first. Soul vein smashed into the psychic shield, shattering it in a cascade of light and sound. I felt the ethereal's control falter. It was not fear, it was awareness. You would destroy me, it said, voice calm even as chaos swallowed its defenses. Yes, I said, because you cannot comprehend the storm. I struck again, soul vein vibrating with demonic hunger. The axe's blade found the gap between psychic defenses and flesh. I felt it scream as the demon within tore through mind and body. The remaining fire warriors, now leaderless, hesitated. I could taste their fear. They would scatter. They would die. The ethereal collapsed to its knees, light flickering across its form. You may win, it whispered. But understand, belief endures. Not today, I said, planting the tip of soul vein into the plaza beneath its feet. Warp energy rippled outward, drawing the ethereal into the immaterium. Its light vanished, screaming as it was pulled apart by the tide of chaos. Silence followed. I stood over the ruins, chest heaving beneath my helm. Dal'yth city sprawled around me, smoking, scarred, and broken. The fire warriors who had survived crawled from debris, eyes wide, weapons useless. Their command structure lay in ruins. I surveyed the battlefield. Demons prowled the plaza, feeding on the corpses of the fallen. The chosen regrouped, bolters at the ready, scanning for remaining resistance. My warband had survived intact, bloodied but unbroken. The city was ours. Zul appeared beside me. The planet will remember this day, he said. His eyes glowed with satisfaction. The xenos' faith shattered. I nodded. Good. Let them whisper of terror and darkness. Let them know that the Black Legion cannot be resisted. Dal'yth is only the beginning. I raised soul vein to the sky. The demons howled in answer. The winds carried fire across the horizon. This was the long war, and we were its storm. The fires had begun to die, but the stench of Dal'yth's ruined city lingered like a plague. Smoke rose in long, thin columns from the shattered streets, and the air was thick with the taste of ozone, blood, and scorched ceramite. I walked through the central plaza, soul vein resting at my side. The plaza was quiet, but only because the survivors had learned fear. The few remaining fire warriors moved like shadows among rubble, their eyes wide, hands shaking. They had seen the long war made flesh. I did not speak. They had no need for words. Their silence was acknowledgement. Zul hovered nearby, his wings of warp energy snapping lazily in the still air. We have broken their lines, he said, but the planet is not yet secure. There are remnants, scattered, hiding in cities and forests. They may rise again. Then they will die again. I said. Order is irrelevant. Power endures. This world will remember the Black Legion. And all who survive will bear the mark of that memory in terror. I gestured to a squad of chosen. Sweep the northern sectors. No one leaves. No one survives who resists. And bring me their leaders. I want their faith in ruins. Their loyalty twisted to fear. The squad saluted, moving out with purpose. Their bolters thundering across the empty streets as demons followed silently behind. I climbed to the upper levels of a collapsed building. From there, I could see the expanse of Dal'yth, forests scarred by orbital fire. Cities hollowed out. Defensive emplacements melted or twisted by warp hammers and melter. The Tau were efficient. Yes. Clever. But cleverness could not survive here. Not when chaos bent reality itself to our will. Amon Zul's voice crackled beside me. My lord, there are signals in the warp. Other worlds have noticed. The xenos network falters. Some may flee. Let them flee. I said. The universe is large. They will return to tell lies. And we will wait. Or we will follow. The long war does not end because they run. It only grows hungrier. I turned my attention back to the plaza. The surviving fire warriors had been rounded up into a single square. Weapons at the ready but shaking in unison. I strode among them. Look at me. I commanded. My voice carried without amplification, though it felt like it rattled their very minds. You saw your leaders destroyed. You saw your armies scattered. You thought your logic, your faith, your order would save you. It did not. And it will not. They trembled, not one daring to meet my gaze. Chaos is not mercy. Chaos is truth. And today, you have seen the truth. I raised Solvane high. The demon within screamed. And the surviving fire warriors collapsed to their knees. Quivering. Broken in mind and body. Tell your people. I said. Tell them the Black Legion walks among the stars. Tell them that no world is safe. And tell them, the long war has only begun. The day passed. And I oversaw the occupation personally. Chosen and demons patrolled the streets, ensuring order through fear. Any structure that could serve as command or defensive post was seized. Survivors were interrogated. Intelligence extracted. Nothing escaped my notice. Even the planetary network had been co-opted. Data terminals hummed beneath my fingers as Amon Zul fed warp energy into the systems. Scrambling communications. Turning their defenses against themselves. Dal'yth was ours. Entirely. Yet I did not linger in triumph. The long war stretches across the stars. I had not come here merely to conquer one planet. That evening, atop the central tower of the ruined city, I gazed at the horizon. Fires burned like veins across the world. Smoke rose in columns that stretched to the clouds. The sky, once tranquil and blue, was now a churning reflection of the war that had taken place. Amon Zul appeared at my side. Quieter now. His voice a hiss in the wind. What comes next? My lord. I turned. Visor reflecting the burning landscape. Next. I said. Next is the campaign. Next is the harvest of souls. Next is the next world. The next army. The next conquest. Dal'yth was only the first spark. The galaxy will burn. And we will walk through the fire unscathed. I raised Solvane once more, letting the demon within scream its approval. The city below whispered its terror. Its silence a hymn to the Black Legion. And somewhere, deep in the warp, the long war pulsed in response, waiting for us to strike again. Dal'yth was ours. But the campaign had only begun. The city slept beneath the smoke of conquest. Not peace. Not rest. Only a fragile illusion enforced by fear. I walked through the streets atop the prow of a transport. Solvane at my side. Demons circling like predators above the rubble. The Chosen marched behind me. Bolters ready. Their eyes glowing faintly with the reflection of the fires below. The surviving Tau had been gathered into holding zones. Their disciplined formations broken. Their faith shaken. Only the strongest ethereals, commanders, and select pathfinders had been spared, not out of mercy, but for utility. Utility. That was the key to domination. Fear could destroy armies, but knowledge controlled worlds. I entered the largest holding compound. The architecture alien but intact enough to serve my purposes. The ethereal, barely conscious, floated in a containment field. The light of its aura dim and flickering under Amon Zul's warp energy manipulations. You cannot escape the warp, I said, stepping closer. Your mind is open. I can see it, feel it, twist it. Tell me, Xeno, what did you believe in? It did not respond immediately. Its gaze was steady, calm even in chains of psychic suppression. You believe in the greater good, I said. You think order saves, that obedience protects. I will show you that the universe obeys no rules. Only power is real. Amon Zul began to chant in the dark tongue. The air thickened. Reality bending. The ethereal's psychic defenses flared, then faltered, as threads of the warp reached into its mind. I felt it struggle. Do you see? I asked. Voice a low growl. All you hold sacred. All you cherish. All you fight for, meaningless before the long war. A scream echoed across the chamber. Not mine. Not theirs. But from the ethereal itself. The scream twisted and multiplied as the warp reached into its essence, unraveling centuries of belief and reshaping it in terror. The other survivors watched, trembling, their armor cold in my gaze. Remember this, I said. Chaos is the truth of the universe. Obedience is a lie. Today you see the long war. And you will carry this memory to every world you touch. I gestured, and a demon surged forward, clawed hands tearing into the command center of the compound. Systems sparked. Fire spread. The captured leaders screamed. Their rituals of control shattered in seconds. This was more than conquest. This was indoctrination through terror. Fear is contagious. Belief bends before it. I turned to the plaza outside. Scouts reported faint movement in the forest surrounding Dal'yth, scattered squads of survivors attempting to regroup. Bring them here, I commanded. All will kneel, or all will die. The planet is ours, and it must learn obedience. Amon Zul hovered beside me, wings of shadow snapping out. They resist, my lord. They will learn, I said. Resistance is temporary. Fear is eternal. Dal'yth will remember the Black Legion long after the last building burns. We began preparations for the next phase. Warp energy nodes were established. Ritual circles drawn into the streets. I could feel the planet's psychic resonance, feeding the demons, amplifying the fear we had unleashed. Soon, Dal'yth would be more than a conquered world. It would be a beacon of despair. A warning to all who thought the Tau Empire invulnerable. As night fell, the fires below painted the sky in orange and red. I stood atop the central tower, Solvane in hand, the demon within thrumming with anticipation. Next, I whispered to Amon Zul. We strike the systems they will call upon for aid. The galaxy will feel us now. They will spread fear to their neighbors. And we will be waiting. Amon Zul nodded, eyes alight with dark amusement. The long war marches ever onward. Yes, I said, and we are its storm. The wind carried the screams of the captured, the cries of the demons, the distant sound of fire consuming the city. Dal'yth was ours, broken, terrified, and reshaped in the image of chaos. But the campaign would not stop here. The universe stretches far, filled with worlds and armies that dare resist. And we will be there. In every shadow, in every star, in every heartbeat of fear. The long war is eternal, and we are its harbingers.